So welcome to stage 16 of my Lancaster build. We will be working on weathering the fuselage, but before we do that, let's have a look at what they've been up to in Hachette land. In this issue we will be doing the details for the middle floor section, and as you can see there are 7 listed parts, but there's actually 8 in total. And that's what it looks like once it's been finished, and as you can see it is starting to grow in size. It's gone from staying quite small for a long time, and it's just suddenly going to start to grow. So hello, welcome to stage 16 of the Hong Kong models build, and in this episode we're going to be weathering. So in the last episode, I can't remember which one we did this one last episode. We put all of the little pieces in. We've still got a couple of pieces to put in because we don't want to obscure the windows and make life hard for us. But we're going to be doing a little bit of weathering on this, and we'll also, while we're there, we'll do this side as well. Now, before we go any further, I've made a boo-boo. I put all of the windows in, and it's probably going to be easier if we do it without the windows. However, there's a bit of a lifeline. Because these have been put in with a PVA style glue, it means it's not a permanent fix. So all we need to do is just turn this onto its side, get something that isn't going to scratch, such as the back of a paintbrush, and we can just gently, there we go, we can just pop those out, no problems. Like that. There is a little bit of glue residue on them, and that's something that we're going to have to deal with, but not going to be a major problem. So make sure your windows are safe. So I'm going to get on with that, and then I will see you at the spray booth. So the varnish that I'm going to be using on this, never used it before, is VMS Varnish Top Coats XXL Gloss. Now it does say apply with an airbrush using 0.4 plus nozzle. The product doesn't require thinner but can be diluted with small amounts of acrylic thinners. Now I have thinned this just slightly, about 4 parts gloss varnish, 1 part thinner. Now once that's been thinned, we just spray it all over. Really nothing to it, nothing you've never seen before. Just give it a nice all over coat of varnish. You don't even need to sort of give it a real shine. Just a nice all over, just something just to protect the paintwork. Okay, so we are going to weather this. Now there's lots of ways to weather. I could get oils and slap it all over and wipe it off. I could get some Citadel shades or some Army Painter shades, and I could put it on, a whole host of things. But what I'm actually going to go for today are these ultimate weathering washers. Now I wasn't sure which one. I've done a little test, by the way. Let me show you what I've got. So that's the basic bit, and that is with a little bit of wash on it. It might be a little bit strong. So what I've decided is I've got light dirt and dark dirt here. Now one of these I got a long time ago. I think it was this one. I got it with one of these mystery boxes, and I've tried it out on an aircraft and I found it a little bit too light, so I bought the dark dirt. But on this particular case I've tried it with the light dirt. I just did that little patch just to test, and I did the light dirt first because I thought if that's too light I can then put the dark dirt over the top. But I think that's somewhere between spot on and too much. So I'm going to go with that. I think that's going to be alright. By the time you put the second half on, yeah, you're not even going to see inside there anyway, but obviously it'll become a little bit more appropriate for the cockpit. So right, how do we apply this? So first of all, do not use a good brush. Please don't use a good brush because it will probably wreck it. This is a clay based product, and what I'm going to do, the official people will probably tell you, you can use kitchen rolls and all sorts. I'm going to kind of apply this the Citadel wash way. So let me explain. I'll do the middle bit first. So this settles really quickly, by the way, guys. So what I would do is give it a good shake to begin with, a really good shake. Obviously, if you've got one of these vortex mixers, that's going to help you out. I tend to give it 10 seconds on the top, on the bottom, 10 seconds on the top, and then just for fun I'll do 10 seconds on one side and then a little bit on the bottom again, and that should give it a really good mix. If you can see too much on the bottom, this isn't a perfectly clear through bottle, but give it a good mix, and then say every 2 or 3 times when you apply it, pop the lid back on and give it another shake. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slap it on, make sure we get full coverage with it, like so. Make sure it's all in all those nooks and crannies, and then what I'm going to do, as my brush gets a little bit dry, we're going to just try and wick away as much as we can and then apply that elsewhere. I don't want it really piled up because I'm going to remove so much of it, and we do literally want this to be light. So for every 3 lines, say, I could probably get another one done. There, look. So just removing as much of that as we can, and then once we've done all of that, all we can do is wait for it to dry, and it will give us a kind of a dry, mucky kind of a texture. And one thing I will say, I'm doing this as a single episode. I think the amount of workload that I'm going to be doing, I think I could get away with saying this is a double episode, but alas, I've made it a single episode. It'll all balance out in the end. I've got an episode coming up in a few weeks, which I'm calling a double episode, and it's really not an awful lot of work to do. But this is the way it goes. This is going to be probably a good hour's worth of work. Yeah, probably a good hour's worth by the time we've finished it. This is not taking into account the resting time to allow it to dry. So that's that section done. I'm going to carry on with it. But yeah, it's just, let's say, it's made of clay, so don't, in fact, you can see it starting to dry around the top of the brush now, and it's gone there. But I'll show you once it's done. So this has been left to dry for a reasonable amount of time, and it is looking like I've dropped it in a muddy puddle, which is good. If that's the look you're after, fantastic. But what I need to do now is to remove as much of that as I can, and then it'll just give it that dirty look. The less you remove, the more dirty you look. Personally, I think that's too much for anything. But now, because this is clay based, it gets reactivated with water. So what you will need, and normally if you're doing like an external of an aircraft, you would just get a damp kitchen roll or something and you'd wipe it in the direction of travel. Because I've got all of this detail, that's not going to happen. So let me show you this. I'll do it on a black bit. It's, if you rub it with a cotton bud, you can see it's having an effect, but it's not having an awful lot of effect. But you see it is coming off, but that's not how you work it. So what you do is you get a damp, I've got this lid, by the way. I'm anticipating I'm going to use a lot of cotton buds, so I've just got the whole, this is my spare box. I normally keep my cotton buds in a drawer so that they're handy, but the last time I got a top up I couldn't fit them all in, so this is my spare. So what I've done is I've made a little bit of kitchen roll in the lid, and I can just roll that in there. In fact, actually I want to top that up, but that's okay. And then just dampen it, not soak it, and then what we'll do is we'll wipe this away and get as much out as we can. That really needs to be much. Let me get some tap water. I've actually done this quite a while ago and it's dried off a little bit since then. Okay, and then we'll just wipe out as much of that as we can. Now, by the nature of the cotton bud, you can't get right into the corners, so the main surface is going to be nice and clean, but the corners are going to be left grubby. So there's the bit I've just done there. As you can see, I've gone over lightly, but all I need to do, if I want to get more of it out, I just need to scrub a little bit more. So I need to top this up with more water, and the more we get in there, the more we'll clean out. And it's just going to have a little bit of muck in the recesses. That's still a little bit damp, and just go over the whole lot and then have a look at it. If you need to go over it again, then you can do, and just go over it and over it and over it until you've got the result you want. I'm doing the black because I thought that's a little bit more prominent. Okay, and then when you get the green, exactly the same process. You get quite a lot of panels out of each cotton bud. What I'd probably do is get maybe get a quarter of it done with a cotton bud, and then get a clean one and go over it again. So you probably use about 20 cotton buds for all of this, and just keep topping this up. But look, just getting it all off there. Some people might lick this cotton bud to get it damp. That's okay. But just be aware that once your cotton bud gets dirty, all you're actually going to be doing, you will be taking some of it up, but you'll be smearing most of it around, and then just go around it. See, that's what it looks like once it's been. So still very grubby. The look that I'm after is, imagine that this is actually today. Also make sure you get rid of on the top of those ribs. So the effect that I'm after is, imagine that this aircraft exists today. It's in a museum somewhere. It's 2024 or whatever year you're watching this. You might be watching this in the future. If you went down to the museum tomorrow to go and visit this is what you'd expect to see. So I want it to be well looked after, but at the same time you got to appreciate that it's is about 80 years old. This panel there, obviously we'll get the main bits that we can get out, and that's just come off again. It's happening. And then when we get to the dials, we'll just poke it in and just go round, so you'll get a little bit of A little bit showing. If you think there's too much, just keep going around till you got it. Remember, some of that is actually paint and some of that is the dirt. So I'll pop that back on when I'm able to. And yeah, just keep going over it. So I'm just going to do this half on screen. I'll do the other half off camera, and I'll see you back at the desk when I've done it, and we'll have a little chat and we'll go on to the next bit. Okie dokie. Okay, so this may or may not make you laugh. I found a quicker way of doing it. What we do is we get the same brush we used to apply it, fresh clean water, just paint along one of these panels, and that's going to completely reactivate that, dilute it and make a big puddle of it. And then with our clean cotton bud, we just go in and we just mop the water away, and because it's a little bit more diluted, the effect is a lot softer. Look at that. How easy is that? And then obviously once it's all dry, if we feel it needs dyeing down a little bit more, we just do it again, and what it'll do is it'll dilute whatever's left. But that I'm quite happy with. Obviously the flatter bits we don't need to do that, but that's nice and easy. Probably keeps the cotton buds lasting a little bit longer. Look at that. How easy was that? It's pretty much the same effect as we're getting further back. Once it's, as you see, this is dried, the effect is dulled down. This is what it looks like when it's still damp, and it looks quite strong right in the corners. Don't panic. Nothing to panic about, guys. But once it's dried, the colour kind of dies down a bit, and then you decide, do I need another pass? Okay, so that is it done, and I'm going to say I'm quite happy with that. Some of it is still a little bit damp, but as you can see down here, it looks pretty good. It actually, the effect seems to be a little bit more on camera, but I'm quite happy with that. If off camera at some point I decide it's too much, I'll give it another go, but just keep giving it a go until you remove it. These bits here, I found it's just as easy to get a paintbrush, dip it in water, wipe, just go over the whole lot, wet the whole lot, and get a kitchen roll and just dab it. All you're basically doing is diluting that wash. Right, so I'll be honest with you, I spent a lot of effort on this, and it's getting on top of me as among other things. I've done the weathering, which is what I set out to do. So I'm actually going to leave this until we get to stage, I think it's 19. Yeah, 19 is putting the two halves of the fuselage together. Now, it might turn that 19 into a larger episode, but once we get to 19, we'll do all the little details. We'll put all the windows back in. I'm actually in debate whether to do the windows again as speed bond, as I've already done, or whether to actually make my own windows, or just contact. I have actually contacted Hong Kong, and I'll see what they say. I might just buy another sprue. So yeah, we're going to leave that fuselage now until we get to 19. There's a couple of other things I want to do before Christmas. So next week we're going to be looking at the power supply that I bought, and we'll test the electronics. That's going to be considered a double episode. Then the week after we're going to be doing the propellers, and that's part of what I'm calling a catch-up series. So what my aim is whatever Hachette are building on that relevant stage, I want within a few episodes before or after, I want to build the equivalent on the Hong Kong. That's why in two weeks I'm going to be doing the propellers, and then the week after is going to be the navigator, because that's the only thing I can think of that'll do a single episode. That will take us into Christmas. During the Christmas break, I will be looking at what Hachette have done. I'll also be starting my own Hachette build from issue 22. So I won't. Basically, the way I've done the format. Excuse me, 1 second. Sorry about that. So the format that I've done on this episode, and I think the last one as well, perhaps. No, on this one. So what you're getting at the beginning is just a couple of pictures of the instructions, because I feel that's all you're going to need, because there will be a separate video for Hachette, not for this stage, but obviously I'm doing the catch up, so it'll trim the video down a little bit, and we'll try to keep the Hong Kong and the Hachette at similar stages, so that there is a much more direct comparison. So guys, going over to the costings, and then I will catch you next week when we will be doing a show and tell on the new power supply that I've bought, and we'll test some electronics, and we'll call that a double episode. See you later. So the costings for issue 16. So as usual, it's £10.99 for the Hachette. That brings the cost up to £162.84. Which no extra money spent on the Hong Kong in this episode. So that brings the cost to £567 difference. It is creeping down, but we're only £215 behind just a basic build. Now, I think this is being fair. I'm going to give 1 point to the Hachette, because it's just a few parts, screw them together. That's your typical part work. This episode, I've created quite a lot to do, possibly too much. I'm very tempted to give it a 3, but I'm going to be a little bit conservative and say some of the extra work that I've done I've actually created for myself. So the scores are 23-25, which means that the Hong Kong is about 2 in front. So that's it, guys, then. So as I've said earlier in the video, next week we will be doing some, I'll be showing you a power pack, which I bought, which I think is absolutely ideal, and we'll be testing some electronics. Catch you next week, guys. Bye bye.